Hello out there, this is the Irate Veteran coming at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about knee claims. I'm actually going to start a new series of videos this year called Only What You Need to Know. The video this is replacing was made 3 years ago and is an hour and 10 minutes long. Okay, I might have provided a little too much detail. Only what you need to know will be a lot shorter. Let me plug my book. At least read the cover for me, right? And if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. You want to buy it, buy it. All right. First thing you need to know about knee claims is you need a statement. Winning and getting properly rated is absolutely dependent on a detailed, relevant statement, right? So you have to do that. Statement examples with all the relevant things you need to know, right, are downloadable at vamadness.com. As well as this presentation is downloadable at vamadness.com. That's enough said about statements, but you absolutely have to have one, a relevant one, right? A statement with just a lot of nonsense on it isn't going to be helpful. These are the primary codes veterans are awarded. Yes, there's other codes. I'm not covering knee replacements. I'll have a separate video probably to talk about that at some point, right? But these are the four major ratings that veterans receive, right? Instability, meniscus type problems, limitation of flexion, and limitations of extension. You can get a rating for each one of those, right? So you can get typically 4 possible ratings, right? Now, there's also a couple of related considerations, painful motion and arthritis. Let's go through and talk about each one of those. All right, 5257, instability. You really need an MRI to know if this applies. However, an X-ray may in fact give you what you need. There's 2 types of instability, patellar instability and then recurrent subluxation and instability, right? And under patellar instability, you have to have an identified problem with the quadricep tendon, the patellar tendon, or the kneecap. Right. Under subluxation or instability, you need a ligament tear or a sprain, right? So 5 things. One of those things is a must to get a rating for instability. That's if you have instability, of course, right? Problem with the quadricep tendon, problem with the patellar tendon, the kneecap, a ligament tear, or a sprain. If you don't have one of those issues, you will not be rated for instability, even if you have 50 witnesses say, oh, you fall all the time. Does not matter. You need one of those 5 things, right? So enough said. Let's move on to meniscus issues. 2 codes that one of those 2 codes may apply. First, of course, you have to have a meniscus problem. And it's not as simple as that, right? It says dislocated. I see lots of results of diagnostics that say you have a torn meniscus. Does that also mean dislocated? I'm thinking it certainly could be interpreted that way. And I know tons of veterans who've had to have like arthroscopic surgery to have like portions of the meniscus, removed because it's causing problems. And those problems may in fact be like locking. And that's the key term in 5258 is locking. Symptoms can only be rated once. So regardless of how many knee conditions you have, once pain's rated, pain's rated. It almost all knee problems have pain. Same with swelling. Almost all knee problems involve swelling. But this is the one that specifically involves locking. So if you have like a torn meniscus and locking, you have the possibility of getting this rating. Under 5259, the meniscus needs to have been removed, but it's not as simple as that. You also have to have some kind of symptoms that cause you problems. So here's 2 codes. Again, have to have the key term removal with symptoms or locking. Otherwise, you cannot get this awarded. Let's talk about limitation of flexion and limitation of extension. These are really simple, right? There's a range of motion measurement, and then it is what it is. You either have limitation that's rateable or you don't, right? So, and if you don't, then the next things that would be considered is painful motion. If you have painful motion in one or both, you can get just a single rating for painful motion at 10%. Let me say this. I've reviewed probably 20, 30,000 board decisions about knees, and I found an interesting fact. It doesn't happen that often, but every now and then a veteran will argue it, and some have won, where if you have an actual identified problem with flexion or extension, in other words, you get a rating for it, and the other function is painful, some people have been awarded a painful motion for that other function. It requires one of the two, flexion or extension, to have got a rating. Let's say you have limitation of flexion at 10% and extension's painful. Well, you can also get a rating for that, right? And then, the other side of that is the limitation of extension at 10%, and if flexion is painful, then you can get a rating for that. In other words, 2 10% ratings. I will say this, the regional offices will never award that. However, I've seen it awarded at the board. So it is a possibility for veterans who actually get a rating for one of those and have painful motion for the other. It's something to consider, but just remember that it'll have to go to the board to get that particular rating as a possibility. The last possible thing, let's say you did everything and all you're getting is that single rating with 10% for that knee for painful motion. Well, there's another possibility. I will say this, I've never, one time ever, seen this rating issued, ever, right? I know a lot of veterans think, well, I have a rating for arthritis. Well, you actually don't. You may be service-connected for arthritis, but the rating is likely for painful motion. I've never seen this awarded. If anyone out there has it awarded, I would love to see it, just so I could see it once. So to get this rating, probably why it's never awarded, or at least I've never seen it ever awarded, is that you need some specific things, right? One is X-ray evidence noting arthritis at the kneecap and at the femur tibia joint. All right, why does that come out like that? Tibia, a joint. Both of those have to involve arthritis. Yes, the kneecap is a bone. It can have arthritis. Then the second element is you have to have occasional incapacitating exuberations, which of course isn't defined. But I would think if you have flare-ups, that sounds like an incapacitating exuberation. I'll say this about x-rays. Most of the time, an x-ray for your knee that finds arthritis will just say degenerative changes noted. It won't specifically say if it's at the kneecap or if it's at the femur tibia joint. You would need an x-ray that was specific about where that arthritis is, because it has to be at both of those joints, the knee joint, kneecap joint, and the femur tibia joint. If you want to know more about how arthritis applies to claims, I have an arthritis video, take a look at it. But anyway, that's all I've got to say about these knee ratings, and really it's all you need to know. iRate Veteran out.